All right, go for it.
What factors have been causing the traffic congestion at AVR?
The factors that cause the congestion here at AVR Oaks Elementary and the middle school would be there's probably over 2,000 students now between the two schools. And so with the growth in the community, coupled with the growth of students at the schools, that's what makes it very difficult. When this school first opened in 1990, it had 360 students, and the middle school wasn't even here yet. So the master plan was to bring that all into the fold. However, I don't think anybody anticipated the type of growth that we see here in Carlsbad today. So because of this corridor here in Carlsbad, you know, the school's big enough to serve the students, but it's tight with a small parking lot and a small drive-through like we have.
So basically, the traffic congestion is caused by more students coming?
More students and poor planning originally in regards to the number of students that would eventually be here and at the middle school.
Which specific area has been causing the most problems?
The most problems are probably the immediate drive in, because you get a backlog with how people pick up students. The drop off isn't as bad because there's more of a flow, but on the pickup side, it tails off into the street because of the street light as well. So that holds a lot of people at bay. So it's hard to run just 2 lanes. You've got to run 3 lanes, but have a good third lane it's a full through lane and keep that moving. But it's problematic because a lot of parents, be them middle school parents or elementary, want to pick up their students up at the middle school as well and try to spread it out, but it actually blocks the first lane that we're trying to exit. So it's kind of a 2, if not 3-fold problem with regards to like the toughest spot, you know. And the backing up from the, you know, so when you got the exit like we do and the backing up, that backlog occurs because we're trying to cross students on the top with crossing guards. So those cars could stop at that stop sign and continue moving, and it would be a pretty even flow. However, we're crossing hundreds of students at the same time that we're also exiting the cars from that peak area. It's a tough one. Good question. Good question.
It appears that there are more cars than before. Can you explain why?
It's that's a really good question, and I'll tell you why. In this neighborhood, particularly, there's not a lot of students that either skateboard, scooter, or bike to school. And between both the elementary school and the middle school, I would say there's truly only a handful of students who do that. And it's a little trickier in this area in which you all live because there's lots of hills, and the bike lanes are kind of precarious. There are some that exist and then some that don't. And then a lot of students live a lot farther away from this school than our neighborhood schools in Carlsbad, like Magnolia Elementary, maybe Pacific Rim Elementary, Hope Elementary. The proximity is closer, there's not as many hills, there's bike lane access, and it just makes it a lot more appealing and a lot more safe for students to bike to school or even walk to school. When you think about our boundaries here at AOE, our boundary is not a simple boundary like the majority of our elementary schools in Carlsbad. If you look at the boundaries on a map, you'll see the school and it's boxed with a boundary line. It's a very simplistic line. Our boundary runs all the way on the other side of Pacific Rim on Avier Oaks Parkway. It shoots all the way down there, and then it wraps all the way up here around Poinsettia, and then it comes back down, and it even crosses parts of El Camino Real, and then it sweeps all the way down here into the lagoon. So when you look at the school boundaries for this school in particular, it's really spread out. So students don't have that ease of access, walking, biking, scoot, all that stuff. So that's why we see more people than not choose to drive in and drop off and pick up their students here. Where a lot of other elementary schools, it's not the case. It's more of a 50-50 split. The last elementary school I was at, the bike rack was plugged. Skateboards, scooters, motorized scooters and skateboards, bicycles. I mean, it was plugged. It was. The difficulty at that school was getting the kids in and out of the bike area to get their bikes because there are so many students trying to grab their bikes. But here it's all cars. You know.
So do the other schools do not have these traffic problems?
They have traffic, they have congestion, but they don't have anything that amounts to what we have to deal with at both our drop-off and our pickup times.
Is Avier Oaks our area of schools are the only one that's this hilly? Do you know?
For the most part, yeah. You look at schools like Hope Elementary, it's a little hilly in and around there. But, Kelly Elementary, it's flat. Magnolia Elementary, flat. Pacific Rim, for the most part, flat. Calavera, a little bit more hilly up in those parts there, but it's not steep grades. But, yeah, when you look at the makeup of the community, and as the community has grown since the 30 years since the school was built, a lot of different developments in pockets in areas where you wouldn't have thought, we would be building homes years ago. Yeah, definitely.
What can be done immediately to help with the traffic problem?
Carpooling, and we're trying to emphasize that with a lot of individuals. And I think you guys may have seen the individuals out here that were pitching carpooling efforts between both, and this is something that the city of Carlsbad is working on as a whole with all of our schools. However, it's difficult because a lot of our parents here in this community, both fathers and mothers work. So they need their car to, get to and from. So they choose to come drop their children off and then go to work. So carpooling is not an option because of that. So it's more difficult for people to opt into carpooling. And then the other aspect of your question would be, people need to learn how to just be patient and understanding and calm. What makes traffic worse is when people get upset or angry about it and then cause even more congestion, because when that happens, people are arguing and they're squabbling and they're not being kind to one another, and that's only holding up traffic. It's not helping the flow. So people need to be that much more understanding, and remember, we're all in it together. It's a tough one.
So does the school have like a service where if parents need to find a carpool group?
Yeah, there was a lot of information actually that went out on that at the beginning of the school year. And so there was flyers. It's, it was on the websites, it's on the Carlsbad Unified website. So it's a way to link up individuals in the community to create more opportunities for carpooling. But like I said, here in Southern California in particular is very, people enjoy their cars and they enjoy driving, and it's a form of independence for them, so they don't give it up too quickly. So that's why we have a lot of pretty cars in California as well. Like their cars.
What can be done permanently to fix the traffic problem?
Permanent fix would be to alter the U that we have out here and take that parking and move it down. We have a 19-acre school campus. We have a huge campus, boys and girls. So when I know this because when I'm in kindergarten and they call me to 5th grade, I gotta walk all the way to 5th grade from kindergarten, and that's a long way to go. I'm just saying. But it's a huge campus. But we're thinking about taking the parking that exists up here, the staff parking, moving it to the lower end, that playground down there, and turning that into a staff parking lot down there, and then creating more of a U for constant continual flow and a 2-lane flow through here, and then maybe wrap it around and then exit in both directions. So give individuals the option to either drive up the hill and exit, or come through the loop and take another lane and then exit down at the bottom. So we'll have 2 points of, leaving the campus, if you will.
When you say exiting out at the bottom, does that mean flowing out of Aviera Parkway?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
I don't understand why that wasn't even done in the first place.
Exactly. It had to do with the grade and how they position it, because the thought was, with the entire construction of how it works now, boys and girls, it was only applicable at the time to an elementary school being here. The middle school, did they think they were going to build it? Did they own the land to do it? They did. However, they didn't think it would hold the number of students that it does. And secondly, they didn't think forward enough in terms of the capacity, in terms of vehicles. Because when you look at the split, like I mentioned before, about people and their modes of transportation to school, so many schools, the community students, walk, skate, bike, and whatever, and they didn't see it being as problematic as it really is. So it had to do with the grades. So that ramp that's over there that exits the middle school? It kind of zigzags all the way up there. So there was never really an exit, a safe exit for foot traffic there.
Right.
And they built that as they completed the middle school, and that cost a lot of money, like serious money, millions of dollars to build just that ramp to get students out of there in a safe corridor. And the intent was for not just the middle school students to use it, but elementary as well. And that they'd walk up, safely around the sidewalk and take those stairs up and out. So all students were exiting out that way. Well, as you know, that doesn't happen. What do a lot of students choose to do? They want to go up the hill over here, right? And they use the hill and they go up the dirt pathway or whatever. And it's not very safe, but at the same time, people choose to do it because it's an easier way to exit and access. And the reason I don't have a crosswalk there, because it would be unlawful to do that, because that's not really a safe exit, and I would never condone that. However, people choose to do it, and that's okay. But the minute I was to put a crosswalk there to identify safe, pathways for crossing the street, I would be beholden to build another ramp like that one. But I can't, and I know this because the city won't let you, because that grade is very different. And so there's a lot of rules and regulations when you build anything on a public campus like ours, or a building in general. Lots of different codes. So when we think about what we can do to fix this problem, it's not an easy, cheap fix. It's kind of a long-term, expensive fix when you get into the construction costs and what you have to do to abide by a lot of rules and regulations to make it happen. So yeah, but that's a really good question. I like it.
So when I understand there's a plan that we will have the new construction in place, how are they going to divert traffic so that, as it is, it's crazy. How do we handle the traffic during construction?
Exactly. Well, and that's kind of the big question is, how much can they get done and accomplish in the summer with the initial phase of the project? And they'll have to tackle that first and foremost before we tackle other elements of the bond monies that will apply to us in phase 2. So, the idea is to just go at it, the day after the students are released from school, and construction starts solely on that entrance and exit redo. And so they have to do it and do it very efficiently and stay on that really strict timetable. But that's the thought process there. You can't do it during, the actual school year. It would create nothing but total
So
mayhem.
just one summer at a time?
Yeah, well, that's gonna have to be
Really?
it. Or you could do it if the whole, everything's definitely in the planning stages right now, but the redo on just the traffic lanes itself, that would be, a project in and of itself, like the only project, before they even came and touched buildings and all the other aspects of the bond monies.
Okay.
But we're talking millions and millions of dollars, to be sure. It's a big project.
Approximately how much do you think it will cost?
I have no idea. It's wide open.
Okay.
Because a lot of those things come in, and it's bids, and so they're working, phase 1 is going on right now, and that pertains to a lot of schools on the north end, and we're phase 2. So we're a good 2 years out probably from seeing this, even in the beginnings of this project. Probably 2 years out, for sure.
So, that dirt pathway? Do you think that you can make it like a possible road?
Yeah, you can't make it a road because the grade's very steep, so you couldn't do that. And part of this project, Chris, and what your question pertains to, is that the school district has to be working hand in hand with the city of Carlsbad. And that's a city street up there. That's not a school district street. And that's Ambrosia. Is maintained by the city. Everything about it. It's a city street. So if indeed we want to try and redo that corridor and make those streets a little bit more user-friendly for our purposes, for the parking lot, that's a massive project, because you look at construction going up and over and onto that street, and that's something that I'm sure the city probably doesn't want to entertain. Yeah, those are mixed costs. So, and everything like we referenced before about the stairs, that dirt pathway, and because of the grade, it would be truly impossible to get approval to do anything with that grade, to even get a staircase that went like this up that way, you know. And the other reason is, and this is a really, anytime you have or manufacture a pathway or an exit like that, you have to have a crossing point. So the purpose and the rationale for that ramp on the other side by the middle school that kind of zigzags up, it goes all the way to what? A corner of a street where there's cross paths both ways, right? So you can go both ways and cross that street. But you can't do that. You would never build a stairs, you know, going up on that grade and then put a crosswalk right in the middle of Ambrosia. And that would create even more painful congestion. That would be tough. Yikes. It's a little bit of a pickle, you know? It's a little bit of a pickle. Because when you look at like how that street was constructed and the grade, and you think about our school boys and girls, if you look at what happened and how they built it, they dug down into this little dip even more to build the school, which is kind of odd, okay? And believe it or not, the school was built on an underground spring. And so, see those bars over there, the electrical boxes? Those are new. I mean, when I say new, they're probably about 12, 15 years old now. But we had to, all the electrical that was plumbed through the entire school campus was rotting out because it was getting so much water content, okay? So we had to go through and pull all the old electrical out, and the new electrical all had to go above ground in these new frames that you see. So we have that throughout the campus. We have about 2 or 3 different boxes like that. But my point is, we dug down even deeper and we made the problem probably a little bit worse in terms of, you know, the water, the flow. And you think about the street, look how much higher the street is than our school. It probably would have been better to have the school be a little bit higher as well.
Yeah.
It would have helped maybe with more opportunities for fixing our entry and our exit pathways. You know, and it's a thought that I've always had because we're just down that much deeper right
Yes.
here. Yeah, Chris.
Any more questions? Emma?
Yeah.
When you turn into the school, that light,
Mm-hmm.
do you know that people are jumping off that sign where it says Aviary Oaks School? They put their backpack down and jump on top of it.
Oh, yeah, that would be middle school students, I'm sure.
I saw Stella do it too.
Uh-oh, we got a name on video. Stella! That's so
There's
funny.
also a lot of other kids that are also doing it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? So the city went and they painted the fence line all the way this summer. It looks really nice. And they got to where it says Aviara Oaks School. And it says, you notice how it doesn't say Aviara Oaks Elementary or Aviara Oaks Middle School? Because there was only one school originally, and it was Aviara Oaks School. And that's why when I made this hat, I'm like, I just wanted to say Aviara Oaks School, because that's really our original name, you know? So, but they didn't paint, and I thought this was really, really kind of lame on their part, but they stopped and they didn't paint anything on the Aviara, so that paint's all coming off. So I'm going to talk to our grounds crew. It's funny you mentioned that because I want to fix that sign up and make it look nicer, because it's a really nice entryway. But they cut down all those high succulents, so now you can see it really well, but it's very beat up. So I want to get it cleaned up and make it look a little bit nicer. And then we will not have anybody jumping off of it for sure, you know. We'll definitely let them know. But I think if you guys are looking to entertain some thoughts about how you could, in your work, help the traffic flow here, get really creative and move beyond what you see out here. My thought and my idea would be to work with something, and albeit it might not be an exact reality because the city and the school district would have to work really hand in hand to fix it. Look at here over on Aviara Parkway. And when you think about all the traffic that stacks up when everyone's trying to make the right-hand turn to come into the school, you know how it gets backed up way up the hill?
Yeah.
Think about, you know, how much property there is along that line. If you could push out, and so if you're coming down that hill, okay, you're coming towards that stoplight, and you're looking to your right, so you see the school campus and you see all the fields and everything, but look at, there's tons of property right there, and it's city property, it's not school district property. But if the city decided to work with the school district and pushed one more lane out that way, and that was a real drop-off lane, so you would come in to a safe corridor, and there would be like a barrier here, and cars would come in, they drop students there, we come up with another entrance exit down there. So then you had opportunity to either drop off here and or drop off there. So you alleviate the congestion for the elementary school in one place, and then you create opportunity for the middle school to have a drop off independent and separate as well. And or you got two places for the elementary where those individuals who come down Ambrosia could hook the left and come in and drop off this way, and those coming in this way could drop off on Aviara Parkway. To me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of property, they have a lot of property. There's a lot of room on that corridor, that line, if you will, to play with.
Okay.
So if you were gonna look to something that you could maybe like get creative with, to me, that seems like an opportunity.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So for sure, just some thoughts there.
Yeah.
You know, and what would probably be ideal for you guys is once you kind of listen to what I'm saying here and your own thoughts now, if you walked, you know, just went up there the stairs and then walked down the hill and take a look at the whole construct of the school right now and the parking lot, and then continue and then go walk around and walk up Aviara Parkway there and just kind of look around, take notes on what you see and what's feasible, you know, and then you can maybe build some ideas from there.
Okay.
Okay? Is that
Any
good?
more questions?
Any more questions? You good? All right. Good questions, you guys. Good questions.
That was very
Yeah.
helpful.
Very, I like the real world application on all of this
Yes.
as far as your work. That's very nice. It's good.
Thank you. Kids,
No.
thanks, Mr. Hines.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You
That
guys
was great.
have a great afternoon, okay?
Thank
And I'll
you.
see you guys around the campus.